Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Project OZTOG. What is Project OZTOG, you're probably saying? Well, it's simply a photographic panel tackling issues, questions, and everything in between the photographic video industry. At the moment, we're a two-person panel, but we hope to add a third, and each week that third person will basically change around. Now, that person may be a photographer, YouTuber, videographer, or generally a creative in some regard. We also invite you to get involved, and you can comment and send us through issues or questions you'd like tackled, or you can even be the third person at times as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll give you a quick introduction of myself. So my name is Rob. I'm a photographer, shoot weddings and portraits, and also involved in the camera industry. The other panelist here is Chris, and I'll let him introduce himself. Chris.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Chris. I'm a YouTuber and Instagram photographer. I do a lot of creative sort of shooting on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And you also see them in my Instagram as well, below or in the nation. So I just want to kick things off and let's smash this out. So one of the things that we're always discussing, you and I, Rob, is this the topic of Instagram. Now, Instagram recently came out saying that they're basically changing up their platform from being away from being a photo sharing app which is what they initially set out to be. And they're now saying that it's more of a sharing video app, saying that basically they're basically trying to be in competition with apps like TikTok, where people are sharing videos and all that kind of content. But it's kind of interesting to see how this is sort of changing the industry and a lot of sort of photographers or, shooters within that industry as well, because, it's changing the way that people are sort of producing their content. And for especially just primary stills photographers, it moving towards a video sharing platform really sort of pushes them out, or, makes them rethink how they can produce a lot of their work. So it's quite interesting. I think there's going to be a big shift in sort of what people are going to be posting. I mean, even now, people are posting a lot more reels and a lot more video content. So, you can really see a lot more exploration, inspiration in that kind of side of things. But for stills photography yourself, Rob, how does that kind of make you feel?
Yeah, look, firstly, I start off with saying I think Instagram really changed how we consume images and basically in the industry, how we consume images, share images. Basically, we have a situation where photographers, locations have really become famous because of the Instagram photos from them. You think people can travel now, and they're traveling for a specific shot. They'll go to a location with an Instagram shot in mind, and that's what it's all about capturing. So that whole trip is based around, I want this particular image to put on my Instagram. So I think that's kind of really changed how people shoot. You could also have in the industry people who make a living off Instagram.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's their primary job. They work with influencers, they photograph in a way that is consistent. They picked work up from there. They work for camera companies to become influencers, all that type of thing from Instagram. So now that's kind of changing. So as a stills photographer, you got to find a way you can show that in a short video. So I think there's an opportunity to adapt. However, I think that will kind of also be a challenge for a lot of photographers. I think you might see other apps come to the forefront. However, I don't think anything will challenge kind of what Instagram is really.
I've seen a lot more people sort of thinking about a whole bunch of different apps that they're using to post photos on, but nothing as big at this point in time as Instagram itself. And obviously, Instagram's been in the market for the last, 10 plus years, probably close to 20 years now. But the thing is that it is going to be quite a big space in the market for people to actually want an app where they actually get good engagement, especially for smaller pages like you and me, Rob, where, we're not posting 7 to 10 reels or whatever the recommended amount a day. We're just, especially again, like for smaller pages, you just don't see that engagement there, do you?
No, I think
you have to rethink how you're going to shoot and sort of what you're going to post and all that kind of stuff. So it is a bit challenging, but it's also kind of leading into like a new sort of era of like photography, if you like.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it is pushed into that kind of new era of photography. I think photographers are going to have to really adapt to it. Like social media for some photographers has become like their main source of advertising. So a lot of people will just post into Instagram, and that was enough to get regular work coming in, especially if they're working with influencers or models. That kind of regular posting those images was enough to get them the next jobs, and that was their flow-on effect. And you think still photographers know how to capture a single frame, a single image, and make it look amazing. Now they've got to adapt that and change that into a short video. But more importantly, when you are shooting like a wedding, for example, you've got to think, instead of having a whole maybe 5 or 6 images, how you can make that into short clips throughout the day, or even how you gel those images to make a short video now. I definitely don't think Instagram is dead for photographers. I think quite the opposite. I think it'll still be very much relevant. I don't think anything will come through and challenge it. However, I think you will see the climbing popularity of other image-based sharing platforms, 500 pics, for example, and those type of platforms. I think they'll come back to the front a little bit. But also, I think you'll see that the Facebook pages of photographers will become more relevant, as will business websites again.
Yeah. Well, even now you're seeing a lot more, Facebook pages and Facebook groups, for example, where, people are posting in, their specific niche in. So I think that's one of the other things as well is, a lot more people are going for a lot more niche down pages now. So, so that when people come there, they know exactly what to see and exactly what they're going to post.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of is part of, building that community around to that the niche, which kind of leads us into our next topic is, a lot of the bigger sort of pages are, fitting into that niche idea of having a community who are after that certain type of imagery or certain type of photography. I see a lot of people, building their photography pages and, follow me if you're after only drone photography or only sunset photography, for example.
Yeah, I definitely think that kind of sense of community in the industry is really, really important. I think at the moment you're going to have a situation where you have lone wolf photographers trying to guide it alone and be that pro for everything, stills, videos, marketing, business expert, printers, everything like that, versus a small community of people. And it might be, a collaboration between 1 or 2 people, between 2 or 3 people. However, within that kind of smaller community that they've built, they also know when to pull the trigger on having outsourced experts come in. So all of a sudden you might have a big wedding or a number of weddings come up in a week or 2 weeks. So then you'll bring in an editor for a period of time, or you'll send work to an editor. The same with marketing or social media campaigns, building new websites. You just know where to pull that kind of trigger and bring those people in. And then when you're finished with them, you can kind of cut them loose and they can go back into their own thing. They can drift back in and out as you need it. A lone wolf, yeah, I think personally, I think there's a lot of merit to that. I actually like the idea of being a lone wolf. It kind of makes you agile and, you have the ability to adapt if you wish. You kind of run and gun, run your own way, and it's all on your own shoulders. So if you fail, it's really on you. No one else is bringing you down.
Yeah. But in saying that as well, I mean, obviously you've been in the photography industry now for quite some time. As a wedding photographer, amongst other things, how do you kind of work with that on that side of things when you're trying to, coordinate a wedding if you need more than one shooter? How do you find being a lone wolf on the business side of things?
So I've always been very fortunate to have really reliable business partners or people I trust to bring in and shoot weddings and stuff for me. I think the idea of a lone wolf, it's a great idea, but in practice, I don't think it works. You're always going to need someone to second shoot for you. You're always going to need someone to give you a hand in regards to doing video, even an assistant. So you're either hiring these people or you can team up together and make a go of it together. So I've always done that. I've always believed having a really reliable partner and someone who shares your creative vision makes life so much easier. I believe
I think having that I think having that person who, shares that same vision as you, who kind of gets what sort of feel you're going for in your images definitely really helps. The last thing you want to do is get back to the desk after an event, a wedding, whatever it is, and then you realize that, the shots that you've gotten, your partner's gotten, two very different stories.
Yeah, look,
no matter how much you just slap a preset on it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I've always found it's really good to find someone you can work with. Pretty quickly if you can and can't work together very quickly. And just thinking of all my personal experiences, it's kind of very much like we work as a team. If there's no one more important than anyone else, and it just kind of gels. Some weddings I'll shoot far and my partner will shoot close, and then we swap around for other weddings. It really just depends how we feel on the day and what we wish to do. I also shoot portraits, so I'll do more of the couple portraits on the day. The person I shoot with tends to shoot larger groups of people, and he will do all the kind of bridal party shots and stuff like that, family photos and stuff, because he's used to that kind of thing. So it's really about trading off on people's strengths, and just, you're a team. So if someone's better at one thing, let them take care of it and be the expert in that area. I'll do it in another time. I'll be the expert in another area.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've worked a few jobs where I think, it's quite easy for people to forget that, you work to each other's strengths. People be like, I just want this one specific shot, or like one specific look, I should say. And it just seems like, you look back at your photos at the end of the night and you go, well, I've got all these photos, but they're more or less the same kind of setup. Like, I worked in event ones where, they just wanted to do portraits of the people, which is fine, but they didn't want anything out of A to B. And so, I looked through the photos and I was going back through them, and these are very boring photos. Maybe it was just me, but yeah, I think it's good to always, make sure that, you're working to each other's strengths and that you are actually, communicating to that. I think having a good background and understanding of what your partner's shooting style is like, it was also a critical part of the process as well.
100%. 100%. I think back to the job we've done together, right? And it's kind of like, you're better at video than what I am, so you took care of the video. I took care of the stills. And at the end of the day, we knew we had photos covered because I did the stills, and we knew we had video covered because that's what you shot. There was no doubling up. There was not like, oh, I had a clip, you had a clip, then we had heaps of photos and we had no photos as other group. It was a team effort. We went to the same places together, we communicated, and we just got the job done. And that's how it 100%. Should be. We weren't competing with each other. And as soon as you start competing with a partner or in a partnership, you really have to think it's, you got two kind of lone wolves going at it in that one place. You're not going to work. Unless you're going to be a team, you might as well just split up and go your own way. But I believe the collab is definitely the way to go at the moment, especially the way the industry is at the moment. You need, more's better. More's better than one.
Yeah, definitely. So that actually reminds me. You mentioned that one of your partners shoots far and one of your partners shoots close, especially with sort of newer technology, because you're obviously shooting with a DSLR yourself traditionally, and you've sort of come from that film/DSLR band. Find sort of today's technology in the cameras. Obviously, you got a whole bunch of the Zs as well. So obviously, you've gone all the way from that film to DSLR and mirror and beyond to mirrorless. How do you find, going from the different kind of autofocusing systems and like how does that kind of make you feel?
Yeah, no, that's a good question actually. I think the new technology in cameras now is awesome. There's no doubt new technologies in cameras have made it easier. Basically, the technology in those cameras now make it so intuitive to use. That's the thing, right? Yeah, like even if you don't know how to take a picture, if, for example, if you have this up to live view where the changes on the camera actually appear on the back screen, you don't have to be a photographer. Turning this dial here and pressing this button here does this, and the photo looks good on the back. Click the photo, and you've got the photo. With a DSLR, you couldn't see it really develop in front of you. So you kind of had to know how to read a light meter and stuff like that. With film, you didn't find out you nuffed the job up for about 2 weeks afterwards. So you got good at shooting the light meter and knowing your camera gear.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
but
Like I know a lot of people who are sort of stuck in that DSLR sort of world where they're like, a bit of the older generation, but they'll be like, oh, I don't believe in mirrorless. DSLR extreme hardcore. I don't want to go to mirrorless because it's too scary and it's all that kind of new technology. But I think it's always important to sort of, have a play around with it and get a feel for it. It is different coming from DSLR to mirrorless and probably, going from film to mirrorless as well. But, I think actually in the higher end cameras, the autofocus on those things is just so sharp and snappy that it's just incredible to use. And it's so easy just, to literally set your camera up. If you're an events photographer, for example, if you're doing even any event, or if you're doing interviews, for example, it's so easy just to set your camera up, put the eye or, face tracking on, and, just go, and then the camera just automatically records the face or the eye. So it's crazy the amount of distance that it's come, like the technology in cameras has come, but I'm also really excited to see where it's heading.
Yeah,
because
100%.
if it's like this now in 2021, then what's it going to be like in 5 years' time? What's it going to be like in 10 years' time? Like, they're already talking about, eye autofocus in the C3, where basically actually tracks where your eye looks through the viewfinder.
That's pretty cool. I mean, the biggest thing for the technology has come in leaps and bounds. Definitely the technology in like a, DSLR is still cutting edge compared to what it was in film. And the focus systems are much more advanced. The tracking systems are much more advanced. But the biggest thing with mirrorless is, it's a different system. It takes time to learn and adjust, just like it did moving from film to DSLR. So people have to put in the effort and the time. But the biggest thing I find, people have to trust the technology. Like it's not going to make you a great photographer. If you can't take a photo now without all the technology, chances are you will be able to take a photo, but is it going to be great? No. So people who have training and stuff will still be able to take great images. But I think their biggest step is actually trusting the technology in that new camera system and letting that technology do what it needs to do to get the shot for them.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But I think in saying that, it's also important to also still know the fundamentals of photography.
100%.
So, like light, composition. You still, of course, you always still got, your aperture, shutter speed and ISO. That's a given. But I think it's always good to know your fundamentals because, so much of the time you see, these potentially great photos that is taken like this. And so, even if you just adjust the frame like this, no difference.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think, a good photographer is always going to be a really good photographer, regardless of the technology available. So what do you shoot on? Are you a mirrorless or DSLR person?
Say again?
Do you shoot mirrorless or do you shoot DSLR or both?
I shoot a bit of both. So I have a Canon 6D as well as a Sony as well. So, I find it relatively easy to go between the both. They both have their perks. Obviously the Sony is a bit higher res than the 6D. The 6D is a few years old now. But, at the end of the day, it is a tool. It's not like, I'm bound to one over another. I'll use a Sony where I think necessary, and then I'll use a Canon where it would be more beneficial.
Do you have a preference?
And I think that's important to remember at the end of the day.
Do you have a preference?
Do I have a preference? It really comes down to what I'm shooting. that's all I can say. Each like I said, each have their strengths. So
I have to admit, I'm a bit the same. I shoot DSLR and mirrorless. I think at the moment my preference is for the mirrorless system over the DSLR. Yeah. I think because they're smaller, lighter. I have to admit, I don't use eye focus at all. Just never really got into it ever.
Speaking of trusting the technology.
yeah, I'd like to trust it. But I mean, I know it works, but the way I shoot, I still feel like kind of I've taken that DSLR approach to it. But the image stabilization inbuilt in them is phenomenal.
They do have great stabilization. That
alone is worth the change, I feel.
Yeah.
No. Well, look, guys, that brings us to the end, I think, of our first episode. Do you have anything else to add there, Chris?
No, like I said, if you guys want to, if you guys want to join in or want to have your say, feel free to leave it in the comments below.
Yeah, look, guys, thank you very much. I'm really excited to get this project off the ground. So, hopefully we get you all involved in some way through questions, or even if you want to be on the panel, give us get in contact with us, leave us a comment. We'll get in contact with you and we'll make it happen if possible. Cheers, guys. Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed the first look at Project OZTOG. Cheers. See you later. Bye.
Yeah.